Now, today's washout comes exactly 1 week after severe storms barreled through southern New England, leaving behind a trail of destruction.
And now some homeowners are still trying to clean up the damage, and National Grid is also hard at work keeping the lingering debris from last week's storm from creating a new round of problems.
Our Pinpoint Weather Team coverage continues live from Cranston with Eyewitness News reporter Susan Campbell.
There are still tons of branches and limbs stuck up in trees. People who live near that debris tell me they worry every time there's any wind or rain. It's been a week since a powerful storm blew through Jose Gonzalez's yard.
You see these limbs?
He's cleaned up barrels full of leaves and branches, but there are more than a dozen limbs still stuck in trees dangling over his property.
I'm just worried that the limbs will continue to fall.
A very real possibility thanks to wind and rain in the forecast.
My garage, my pool, everything seems to be could be a victim of the limbs falling down.
National Grid is also worried about the so-called hangers, those broken branches stuck in trees. The president of the company in Rhode Island tells us crews have been removing hangers since last week and are continuing that work today.
There is some wind coming through, some rain, so we have crews on the property. We've got 10 creek crews, 26 more available, and 40 line crews out there to address any issues that may arise.
We also saw Cranston DPW crews and tree services working to clear the leftover debris. But that work comes at a cost.
Right now, the insurance company is telling me they won't pay for it, and the tree services are charging triple what they normally do because this is considered emergency rates. So I'm hoping that I can just wait it out a little.
Coming up new at 6, we asked the president of National Grid what his tree and line crews found and fixed today. Live in Cranston with the West Bay Mobile Newsroom, Susan Campbell, Eyewitness News.
Their team coverage continues now. The communities that were the hardest hit last week are now bracing for the possibility of more wild weather.
And new at 6 tonight, the president of National Grid tells us what his crews found and fixed today.
From the West Bay Mobile Newsroom, Eyewitness News reporter Susan Campbell is in Cranston.
The president of National Grid tells me his crews found some branches and limbs that had to be cleaned up, but he says there were no major issues today. It's been a week since a powerful storm toppled trees and knocked out power throughout Rhode Island. For cities like Cranston, tree services and National Grid, the cleanup continues.
There's some tree branches that have come down with some of the wind that hit some of our wires. So there are a few things out there, nothing really substantial, a few outages, but when those happen, we'll get people back very quickly.
Tim Horan, the president of National Grid, tells us the first priority after last week's storm was to restore power.
Once restoration was completed last week, our tree crews and our line crews were making patrols of the feeders through those same towns again, looking to see if there's other tree limbs, trees, or poles or things that needed work once we get everyone back in power.
Today, Horan says crews are still focusing on hangers, those broken branches and limbs that are stuck in trees threatening power lines.
There is some wind coming through, some rain, so we have crews on the property. We've got 10 creek crews, 26 more available, and 40 line crews out there to address any issues that may arise.
I also asked the president of National Grid to rate the company's response to last week's storm. He says he's happy with how quickly power was restored. In Cranston with the West Bay Mobile Newsroom, Susan Campbell, Eyewitness News.